The Memphis Grizzlies currently hold the second best record in the West, which is pretty impressive considering how their star point guard Ja Morant has been inactive for big chunks of the season, and the play of Jaren Jackson this year has been the biggest driving force of this team's success, where he's putting up some career best numbers while continuing to be one of the most impactful defenders in the league. In this video, we're going to do a deep dive on the stats and film and go over exactly how he's doing it. Now in the half court, Jaren initiates most of his offense on the perimeter. Memphis typically runs a 1-in 4-out offense, and with Jackson starting alongside center Zach Edey, he's been able to get back to playing the 4, which is where I think he's most comfortable at. And while Jackson does start most of his possessions outside the paint, he's still a player that puts a ton of pressure on the rim, where for his size, Jackson has both really good body and ball control. Now with the ball, I wouldn't say Jackson has super elite quickness, and his handle may not be the most dynamic, but he makes up for it with his footwork and physicality. When playing downhill, Jaren loves to seek out contact with his inside shoulder by bumping and carving out his driving line. Watch him here rip towards the middle, to then aggressively throw that inside shoulder like a fullback. Then once he's in the lane, he's going to initiate more contact to take away this defender's space, creating this window to rise up. And while aggressively playing downhill, I also think Jaren has a really good feel of timing and throwing off the defense's rhythm. He's going to again play physical and turn out towards the middle, to then throw up the shot fake and sneak this finish past probably the best shot blocker in the league. When slicing towards the basket, Jaren also has really good patience by constantly reading both his man and the entire floor. Watch him here first attack to his left, and when this help defender digs down, Jaren pulls back and keeps his dribble alive. Then he's going to take one more aggressive dribble into Giannis's body to again create space for his push shot. Over the years, I also think Jaren's game off the dribble has improved a ton. Again, I don't think he's Paul George 2.0, but he's comfortable putting the ball down into open space and having some counters if he gets cut off. Julius Randle here is going to initially slide with his drive towards the middle, but watch how Jackson is going to bring that right foot across to slam the brakes and transfer the ball back through.
Better games of the season. Here comes Jackson.
This move here is actually pretty tough, where Jackson is first going to drop the ball across to his left, to then open up his stance and transfer his weight to his outside foot, setting up this crossover back to his right. Now one really underrated element in Jackson's game is going to be his touch. So far this year, he's shooting over 54% on all his floater and hook shots. And like you've seen, most of these looks are off balance, heavily contested, and sometimes pushed pretty far out. This right here is a left-hand push shot from behind the free throw line.
Down to 3. Half hook is in.
Now one detail that I think really helps Jackson on these looks is that he always comes to a stable 2-foot base before he releases, which gives him a consistent foundation to find his mark. So for being a lumbering 6'10 slasher, I think Jaren has developed a pretty good overall attacking game off the dribble. He's got the physicality to bump his way to spots. His ball control and bag is the best it's ever been. Plus his touch from 8 to 10 feet is always a safety net if he gets pushed outside the deep paint. And then all these skills carry over to Jaren's scoring game in transition, where he's got the size and skill to overwhelm the backpedaling defense. When playing with the ball out in open space, I again think Jaren's improvements as a ball handler really show, where he's able to maintain control of the ball while exploding and quickly changing direction.
To create something. Jaren drives, a little half hook is in.
Watch him here push the ball across to his left hand, to then bring the off arm around to pull himself completely past the defense. And on top of all of those perimeter skills, Jaren is still a legit scoring threat in the post, where he's shooting over 57% with his back to the basket. Now on the block, this is where everything comes back to Jaren's strength and touch, by again taking away the defense's base with contact, creating these clean looks over the top. From these spots, I also think Jackson has solid footwork. if the defense overcommits to either shoulder, he's got no problem using reverse pivots into open space. Notice here how heavily Randall is sitting on Jackson's right shoulder, opening up this easy drop step back towards the baseline. Jaren can also play with different angles and setups. We'll see him again here initiating a back down, and watch him take this dribble and float back towards the baseline, setting up this attack across the middle. Now the next thing we have to go over is Jackson's 3-point shooting. Over the past 12 games, Jaren is shooting exactly 44% from behind the line. And honestly, I do think Jackson's shooting mechanics are a bit unorthodox, releasing the ball slightly above his chest while heavily leaning forward into his release. But despite that, Jackson is still a pretty consistent shooter once he gets his feet set, and he's not a guy that the defense can simply help off of. And Jaren's also comfortable getting into his jumpers on the move. He's not the kind of guy that's going to blast off screens or cover a ton of ground, but he still has no problem relocating and moving to open spots. And that movement shooting naturally makes him a good pick and pop threat, where he's got the footwork to settle his feet while moving at awkward angles. Watch him here dart behind the line, and with his momentum pulling him back towards half court, Jaren has the footwork to organize his feet and rise up for a stable jumper. And that pick and pop threat makes the two-man game with Ja Morant very effective, where Ja's downhill threat commonly pulls two defenders towards the ball, giving Jackson plenty of time and space to rise up for his jumper. And Jackson also generates a good amount of his outside looks in transition, where he can fill lanes and get into clean jumpers off the catch. There's also many times where he's trailing the play, and the defense is just late to pick him up.
Jaren for three. Bingo!
So as a scorer, Jaren has the perfect skill set of a modern stretch 4. He's turning into a consistent 3-point shooter. He can put the ball down and initiate drives off the dribble, while still having the post game to bully matchups on the block. When it comes to scoring, I think Jaren checks pretty much all the boxes. But for a player being as big of an inside-out threat as Jackson is, one would think that would also open up his playmaking, but Jackson so far this year is averaging just over 2 assists per game. Now with the ball, I don't think Jackson is a selfish player. He's for sure more than willing to make the simple play. But overall, I just don't think Jaren is a super advanced passer. There's times where he's completely off the mark with his deliveries or telegraphs his passes, making it easy for the defense to react. There's also times where Jaren plays with tunnel vision and becomes completely honed in on scoring, which causes him to miss clear passing reads, which in return makes it easy for the defense to send extra bodies at him.
Wembanyama has not scored here in the second.
And in addition, there's also times where Jaren gets a bit overzealous off the dribble by either playing too fast and losing control of the rock, or trying to thread the needle and slice through traffic, which is pretty tough to do for being a 6'10 ball handler. And Jaren at times can also get better at reading matchups and which parts of his game he should get to. Take this play for example. Jackson's matched up with a smaller guard, and from this spot, this is a perfect time to turn his back and use his body to bump his way to the basket, but he instead faces up and gets his pocket picked. When charging downhill, there's times Jaren can be a little bit reckless with how he initiates contact, where he just runs over the defense, setting himself up for easy offensive fouls.
More fouls, lean in, offensive foul.
So while Jaren's passing and turnovers do put a cap on how reliable he can be with the ball, I still think Jackson overall has been a major plus in the Grizzlies offense. And a strong case can be made that we haven't even gone over the best part of Jaren's game.
Castle drives and Jaren with a block.
Defensively, Jaren is still one of the most dynamic and versatile defenders in the league. Around the basket, he's got the timing and verticality to both alter and eliminate shots, the strength to wall off some of the NBA's most physical drivers, and the foot speed to switch out against quicker guards. That blend of size and quickness allows Jaren to blow up offensive possessions from any angle. We'll see him here initially get clipped by this ball screen, but while being behind the play, Jackson still has the mobility to scramble down and meet Jeremy Sohan at the rim. Now, because Jackson is mostly playing the 4, he commonly plays the free safety role off the ball, where he can slide over and blow up advantages, or just hover around the paint and provide an extra layer of resistance around the basket. And this is where I think Jackson does his best defensive work, because not only does he have the size and quickness to wreak havoc off the ball, but he's also very proactive in reading the offense and being early on his rotations. We'll see Memphis here blitz this ball screen, and before the roller catches this pocket pass, Jackson is already sliding across the paint and beating him on the catch. And then along with Jaren being able to play that free safety role off the ball, he's also a great primary defender in pick and roll, where he again checks literally every box. He can step up and meet the ball at the level of the screen, sit back and play drop, while also being able to contain some of the best guards in the league in open space. We'll see Dame here turn the corner off this ball screen to then drop down and attack Jackson's top foot. But watch how quickly Jaren is able to swivel his hips and cut off this drive, forcing a contested step back. So defensively, Jackson can impact the game from literally every spot on the floor. You could use him as the primary defender on the opposing team's superstar, put him in the offense's main actions, or you could have him roam off the ball and wreak havoc. There's only a couple of players in the game today who have this much versatility and impact. So while there's still some unanswered questions with how Memphis will stack up against the other teams in the West come playoff time, there's absolutely no doubt that the play of Jaren Jackson will determine how far this team will go. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments who the kid should break down next. The kid's here.